What's going on, young people? Today we're going to be talking about personality. So we did a couple classes on motivation, a couple classes on emotion, and our last few will be about personality, okay? The way that the class is going to work is just a little introduction, quick reminder of what Freud said about personality, because we're going to talk about the new Freudians, 3 researchers that came after Freud but depended a lot on his work, and then we'll kind of talk about some specifics here of how people do psychological personality testing. Okay, when we talk about personality, we define personality as how consistent your thoughts and behavior are. The way you think, the way you act. That's what we mean when someone says, when we say someone has a loud personality or a quiet personality. We're talking about the way they think and the way they act and how they act that way a lot. That's what personality is. So we're going to go through is a few different theories of personality over the next few classes. There's a lot of different explanations for why we think and act the way we do. We got Freud's theory, we have the humanist idea, we have Bandura's idea, we have, it's about learning or our biology or to reproduce and pass on our genes. We're going to be talking about this over the next few classes. Okay, so quick refresher on Freud. You don't need to write all this down if you know it already. Okay, these are the key words we associate with Freud when discussing personality. He said it's because of your unconscious, right? What's below the surface. He said your childhood shapes your personality. And he used these 3 terms, id, ego, and superego. The little devil, the animalistic, selfish, pleasure-seeking part of you. The rule-following part of you that stresses about being good. And then the ego is the balance, who you really are, okay? We've talked now the last couple of units about the psychosexual stages based on these excitable body regions. Owls always play late games. Again, you don't need to write this down if you already know it, all right? If it's already in your notes, but it's a little refresher. The reason why, make sure you can answer these questions, preferably without your notes. Pretty straightforward though. The reason why is because I want to talk about the new Freudians. Neo means new, a new way of thinking about Freud's philosophy. So these folks, they liked some of the things that Freud had to say, and they built off of that foundation, okay? They emphasize your childhood, what's buried within you, and the things that give you anxiety deep down within, okay? So the first one I want to talk about is a guy named Alfred Adler, okay? Adler believed that your personality, it's the result of your relationships with your siblings, okay? And with you were the firstborn or the secondborn or the youngest child, or if you're an only child, Adler says that shapes your personality, okay? The idea here is that we compare ourselves to other people, and that can lead to us either feeling good about ourselves, feeling superior, or what Adler says that in some way we all feel inferior. So he called it the inferiority complex. He said that we have to compensate, okay? This is in the lecture about the defense mechanisms, this idea that when we struggle in one area, we try and make up for it in other areas, okay? The way that I remember Adler is his last name, Adler. It kind of reminds me of the word toddler that also ends with D-L-E-R. And when I think about toddlers, I think about how they relate to their siblings. So Adler talked about how when you were a toddler, toddler, your relationship with your siblings shaped you, okay? I'm gonna do a little activity here. I have 4 columns of words from Adler's research, what he said about how your birth order affects you. So I want you to read through these columns and try and guess which of these you think is what Adler said was true of only children, like Mr. Jones, oldest children, middle, and youngest children. So try and figure out which column do you think goes with which type of kid. And then I'm also curious to know, do you feel like one of these columns reflects you? Or do you feel like you have things from all 4? Basically, I'm asking you, do you believe that Adler's theory is true for you? In class, I will reveal which of these was about which, and we'll have a little conversation about whether or not you feel like it accurately reflects you or your siblings. The second Neo-Freudian, Karen Horney. Please pronounce it with the proper pronunciation. Horney, thank you very much. Her research was based on Freud, and she's the one who really popularized this term neuroses. It's a Freudian idea that we all have some anxieties. She also is the one who talked about how boys have what's called womb envy. Okay, remember Freud said that little girls wish they had a penis. He called it penis envy. She said, no, 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 no. Boys wish that they could have children, have babies. She and Carol Gilligan probably would have gotten along for the way that they critiqued Freud and Kohlberg on some of their sexist theories. The third neo-Freudian I want y'all to know about, very famous, put a star by his name. It's pronounced, the last name, it's almost pronounced like the word young. Carl Jung. You can try saying that, Jung. Jung had a few ideas that he added to Freud's theory. So remember how Freud talked about how you have your own unconscious, there are things buried within you? Well, Carl Jung believed that all humans shared what he called the collective unconscious. He believed that all humans had certain passions and desires and fears that relate to everybody, okay? He called it the collective unconscious. He said that we're all frightened by the dark, and snakes and spiders scare everybody, and we all enjoy a sunrise. And that because these things are in common for all humans, he said it's the collective unconscious, it's true for everybody. And what Carl Jung said, you may have learned it in your language arts classes about archetypes, these symbols or characters or roles that are in certain stories and myths. Carl Jung is the guy who said that we all share a respect for certain ideas. They just connect to everybody. And he said there are certain archetypes, and his theory actually inspired the Myers-Briggs personality test that we'll talk more about in our next lecture homework video. And I'll actually have you all take a version of the Myers-Briggs, okay? So this is a Jungian reflection. He said that we have two people, Mr. A and Miss B. They each have the things they're aware of, and then they each have different things that are below the surface for them. That's a Freudian idea. They have a personal unconscious. And then what Jung said was that Mr. A, Miss B, and all humans have something buried even deeper that is true for everybody. That's the Jungian, if you've ever seen this word, it's referring to Carl Jung, the Jungian idea, that these things just connect to everybody. So you can't see this here, I'll pull it up in class, but he has some different archetypes of what he says are most important to certain people, and on your journey, you experience these types of individuals to help you in your development, to help you along your path, okay? He actually came up with the word memes. He called it memetics. He said there's just certain things that apply to everybody, that just resonate and that are true. And the reason why memes go viral is because deep down, we all have the same feelings and passions and desires. It's a really interesting idea. It's a neo-Freudian idea from Carl Jung, okay? So, quick check for understanding for you. There are 9 different terms here that refer to either Freud or the neo-Freudians. See if you can match these 9 terms up with the right person, the person who said the thing or who popularized it or came up with the idea, okay? You may want to pause it, practice this on your own, make sure you can do this eventually, hopefully from memory, okay? Great. So this leads us into sort of our next class, which is about how we assess and measure people's personalities, okay? So 2 terms, traits and types. If I give you a trait test, I'm talking about a specific characteristic, maybe something like extroversion, right? How extroverted are you, okay? Or maybe I'm talking about, I don't know, agreeableness. How nice, kind are you? Those are trait theories where we give you some sort of test that measures how blank you are at this particular characteristic, okay? A type test says there are certain types of people, and we can kind of put people in a group, and like if we know, so like a couple classes ago, we talked about type A and type B individuals, right? That's a type, right? If we say you're type A, we can make a lot of assumptions about you, okay? So traits are specific, types are these broad collections of traits, okay? These are both connected to your temperament, your temper. This is a word we keep seeing because they love asking about it. Your temper is typically consistent over time, how emotionally reactive you are, right? If you were an easy baby, you'll probably be a pretty easy child to raise, easy teenager, relaxed, no drama, chill, type B, right? If you were a tough, finicky baby, you might be a tough kid to raise, a dramatic teenager. And as an adult, you might be that way going forward, right? Temperamental in your temperament. So these things are collective. Now, the guy who I want you to associate with trait theory is this man, Gordon Allport. And Allport, what I say here is that he studied all the traits, all the words. He's actually famous for going through the dictionary, and he found 18,000 terms that describe people's personality. That's a lot of traits, right? I don't want to take a personality test that measures 18,000. So what he did is cool. It's called factor analysis. This is the last little bullet point, I believe, for today. Factor analysis is when he realized that certain traits were grouped together. So someone who is extroverted might also be outgoing and loud and social. I don't need to measure all 4 of those words. I can just measure for extroversion. And factor analysis lets me know that extroversion is associated with those other things. Okay? If I know that someone's primary trait is, I don't know, openness, well, Gordon Allport found that openness is connected to creativity and being imaginative. And what he found is that we can group certain words together. And y'all do this all the time, right? So we're gonna do a little activity, okay? So I have, I don't know, 14 terms up here, and half of these terms are more associated with Democrats, and half of these terms are more associated with Republicans, okay? None of these words are bad. All 14 of them are values, things that we can talk about being positive aspects of society, but some of them are more conservative, more Republican ideas, and some of them are more progressive, liberal, Democrat ideas. I want you to do a factor analysis. Which words would you group together, okay? So I recommend maybe you pause this and see what you can group in terms of which of these go together as more Republican words and which of these go together as more Democrat words, okay? And what you're doing when you group things, you're doing a little bit of factor analysis, okay? I don't want to show you all the answers just yet. I think we'll go over them in class, okay? So last check for understanding here, make sure you know those 3 T words. The guy who studied all the words, factor analysis. And then what is factor analysis trying to do? How is it trying to simplify personality theory? Okay, go back, do the checks for understanding, try some factor analysis on your own. I will see you guys in class. All right, our next homework video is going to be about specific tests. We're actually going to take some of these in class. Okay, so that'll be pretty cool. You'll get to find out some more about yourself. Peace out.